Welcome to Right on Track, a songwriting podcast. Thanks to Tone for tuning in. I'm Demi Michelle Schwartz, and I'm thrilled you're joining me on my songwriting journey. So kick back and relax, don't fall flat, and remember, stay right on track. Hey everyone, welcome back to Right on Track. Joining me today is an artist I'm so excited to have a conversation with. Please welcome Mira Goto. Hey Mira.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm good. I'm a little chilly in my house today, but I'm good otherwise.
Awesome. Well, I'm super excited to chat with you today about being a pop country artist, your songwriting process, and your EP before. But before we do that, let's dive into a little about you. So if you can share with the listeners a little about yourself and your journey as a songwriter so far.
I'd love to. It's been a long road. I'm grateful for every little in and out that I've had to get through along the way. I'm born and raised California, and so I consider country music to be by nature lyrically driven music, and storytelling is just really fun for me. But of course, you can hear it in my voice. I don't have that stereotypical country accent that people are used to hearing when they don't know a ton about country music. So I'm really happy to bring like the perspective that I have into country music, and to also share country music with people that I have grown up and around and live around that don't necessarily have a ton of exposure to it. So, um, I don't know. I started writing songs in school when I thought school was getting boring, and never really looked back. So it's been a journey, and I'm grateful for all of it. And I've met some really incredible writers along the way. I'd love to hear more about your journey as an artist as well. And it's really fun to just meet other women in the industry. And so thanks for making time for me today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I really resonate with what you said about not having the country accent. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I don't have a southern accent
Okay.
either.
You get
and
it then. Yeah.
and I think that, like you mentioned, with the lyrical storytelling aspect, I also have a background in creative writing and I'm an age-rated author. And so I do a lot of writing too. And so whenever I started songwriting, I was completely in a contemporary pop space, but now I do multi-genre and some country too. And for the exact reason you said about the storytelling, and I think country more than any other genre is a very real way to talk about your experiences and your emotions through that storytelling lens. And so that's why I was gravitating toward that genre. But again, I don't have a country accent. And so I think it's really great to see other artists like you and me bringing our own approach to country, because traditional country will always be a very strong genre, but I think it's great how there are other artists bringing our own voices to that genre, even if we don't have that Nashville sound.
100,000%. It's really important, I feel like, in country to sort of share what you know, and that if you tell the truth, people will believe you. So all I can do is like sing about and write about like what I know and my perspective and my experience. And I find like the more honest my songs are, the more messages I get from people like going, "Oh my gosh, I had the same thing happen to me," or "Oh my gosh, this made me think of like my mother or like my ex that, just whatever it is." It's like the accent is so unimportant, and there's so many different subgenres of country that like, that's why I joke and call it diet country, like what I have, and it's only because the absence of the accent, but, I could put one on if I have to. But I don't have to. I can do what I know and it works.
Right. No, exactly. And I think that's a really great point, because as songwriters, the most important thing we can do is write about what is true and honest to us, because that's what translates. And you're exactly right. I do think sometimes people get really hooked on the accent, But honestly, it's the songwriting. It all starts with the songwriting. And when you get into the instrumentation, you can bring in those guitars and pedal steel and the live drums and everything that gives it a country sound. But at the end of the day, it's not going to change if you are doing an acoustic show and you're standing there with your acoustic guitar singing. That is the heart of the song. All the instrumentation and fancy stuff that we add in the studio gives it some fluff and flash to it, but the heart is the song, and that's why I think more than anything as songwriters we should write how we feel and what we know, not really focusing a whole lot on the genre. However it comes out is how it comes out, but starting with the root and our emotions is definitely what I try to do all the time.
I'm in complete agreement with you. 100%.
So, as we mentioned, with the honesty and authenticity, that is a big part of being songwriters, but it can also be a little daunting at times to open up about such vulnerable experiences. So, how have you developed over the years your ability to be so honest in your music?
That's a good question. I started just trying to chase a good song and just writing a ton, and some of them would sort of float to the top that people resonated with them more, people were requesting them at my shows, people started knowing the words to them before like, at my shows before they were released, so, those were kinda obvious, like, choices for the released projects, but in terms of, like, getting comfortable sharing, it's like, you just kinda have to, that's like the hat that you wear when you take on this this industry as a career path, and I was very uncomfortable sharing music when I was a teenager, and I just felt like my songs weren't good enough, and now I feel like, I'm a good writer and I'm a good performer, and some of my stuff is gonna swing and miss, and some of it's gonna be great, and how are you gonna know unless you try it out?
For sure. I think the confidence plays a massive role because when I was in undergrad, I had a similar thing where really started to connect with songwriting, but I thought that I sucked and I wasn't sharing my songs with everybody or anything like that. And once I developed more confidence in myself, it was easier for me to speak about my truth through my music because that was my way of processing things and getting things out. And getting to a place of feeling confident about my writing was like a massive weight off my shoulders because I wasn't worrying so much about what other people would think. I believed in my music and it gave me an outlet to heal and process, and that was most important to me. So I think getting to that place is definitely the biggest step. And then once you're past that, you'll obviously have little fears here and there with releasing new music and sharing new songs at shows if people are going to like it. But if you believe in something, it's so much easier to push through all of that.
I, like, could not agree more. It's definitely like, I have nights where I have to sing a show and I'm not feeling well, and I'm not bringing, like, 100% of my abilities that night, but I am gonna bring 100% of what I do have available to me, which might be 70%. So, it's gonna sound not as great as I want it to. Maybe some people can tell, maybe they can't, but ultimately, I know I'm a good singer, and I'm a good performer, and I'm a good writer, and, like, I'm not gonna be able to give 100% every time. It's not realistic. So, I know that, and it's just it is what it is.
That's the name of my EP.
Oh, there you
It is what
go.
it is.
It is what it
That's so
is.
funny. Yeah,
Life.
but I completely agree with that because I think sometimes as artists we can think that people have us on a pedestal and we're under a microscope to do perfect all the
Yeah.
time. But what's really great, what you pointed out, is that's not realistic and it's not real. Like, it's not authentic either. Like, when people go to shows and when people listen to music, like a voice crack in an emotional song in a recording could bring so much authenticity to that, you know what
It's
I
like it's
mean?
important to
Yeah.
humanize it too and go, "Well, this is the human experience, and I'm having one at the same time as you, so it's okay."
So speaking more on the songwriting, how would you describe your songwriting process? Are you more lyrically driven, musically? What's it like?
I probably am most, like, interested in melodies. I feel like when I get into the room with somebody who's, like, a producer and is, like, kind of fixated on how, like, the whole overall sound's gonna go, and then I have somebody else in the room who's, like, really into lyrics, my that would be, like, my sort of dream team is because I could hear what everybody else is putting down and go, okay, well, I really would like it to come up on this part here. And then I feel like that would be like my dream sort of we're gonna come up with something great today. But even after we write a song, I might, mold it a little bit more in the melody department to go, but I want to take it up here. I think here's where it should come down. And that's just sort of writing a song and then letting it settle into those pockets. That's my, like, finishing touch kinda thing that I like to do with it, that I sort of obsess over, if you will.
Yeah, well, that's great. And I think too that you can always go back and tweak things. I think whenever we're in a creative space and we're writing, like I know this with my fiction too and the songwriting, it's like whenever you start judging things in the moment, that completely stops the flow. And so recognizing you do have a chance to go back and tweak the melody or change lyrics and tighten things up if you want to, but allowing yourself to be in that moment of inspiration when it's happening and going back and fixing things later.
Yeah, I think rewriting is so important, and if you don't go back and revisit and go, "No, is that the best line for that space? Is that the best way I could have presented that information?" Then you might even really be doing yourself a disservice by
Oh,
not
yeah.
going back and going through it, so
Mhm.
I have,
Yeah.
like, one co-writer who will call me after a writing appointment and go, argue with me and I mean argue, like, I'm not arguing back, I'm just indulging him and listening to this because I respect him so much. He'll argue that the "and" in the 3rd line of the 2nd verse, it should be a "but," and here's why. And I'm like, "Lay it on me, buddy, I got you." Because if you don't, like, respect and indulge your co-writers, your collaborators, what are we even doing? Why don't we just write it by ourselves, you know? That's the whole point, and it's really, really fun to get into those, like, those particulars with somebody that you're working with.
Yeah, yeah, and even when you're writing by yourself, to go back and
Yeah.
revisit stuff, every single line, every single word should count. Like, if you have a word in there that's just like a filler word, cut it out. It can take away the
You
impact
don't
of the
need it, get
line.
it out of there. Get out of here, buddy, no freeloaders allowed.
Awesome. Oh my goodness. So before we chat more about your EP, you have been doing music for quite a while and you have
Yes.
naturally experienced an evolution. So what has been that transformation like for you?
Man, I don't know, I think the desire to grow,
Yeah.
has been really, like, the chief driver in evolving, right? And, like, finding something that I don't know how to do and going, "I wanna do that. I wanna do that." And right now, even currently, right, like, right now, I'm identified an area upon which I wish to expand and learn and grow, and that's production. And it's not necessarily that I want to be the best producer in the world. I want to make records for other people. It's more I need, I desire the language so that when I get into a room and a producer and we're making a demo, or when I'm writing with a producer, someone who's a producer and a writer and maybe another artist, and we're writing something for the artist, that I can then, like, listen to what the artist is saying and find the language that I need to convey, okay, like, this is a sad song, so what do we need in order to make the song feel sad? I need to be able to know how to communicate that to the person that's gonna shape the sound for pitching. So that's driving me right now, is like I really wanna learn how to produce so that I can push out in a few areas.
Yeah.
Have control from the top down.
No, that's fantastic. And it's all about the personal growth. I think that's what causes the evolution, which is kind of what you were saying there, and always looking toward what you can also do and what you can learn. Because I think too, like once we start at the beginning of our journeys, we're still at the very early stages of learning how to write a song, learning what it takes in the studio to record a song. It's all those little things that we need to explore along the way. But once we have a solid foundation, we can start to look at where we can continue to grow and can learn. And as we continue to change as people too, that's naturally going to affect our music and what we're writing about. So there's going to be a constant evolution. But I definitely am right with you on like looking at what else can I do to better myself and to expand my abilities. Literally, my word of 2024 is adventurous. I literally picked that as my word. And just this year so far, in like all areas of my creative life, I've taken massive steps forward. I've taken risks that I never had before. And that has just allowed me to grow into a better creative. And so I definitely think that the personal growth and the educational side of things, learning along the way is extremely important.
It's so important. I love that word, adventurous. I love it. It's true, like,
Yeah.
a lot of times I tell myself, like, "Why like, what like, I wish I'd done things earlier, and, like, it's so I wish I'd learned," whatever, but, like, the best time to do something new is right now.
Mhm.
I mean, it would have been yesterday, but, like, yesterday's gone, so do it right now, and other people do it, how hard can it be? They're not there's nobody who's, like, better suited or more capable. I can at least learn, and I
Yeah.
can expand, and it's fun. It's
Yeah,
fun.
for sure. Absolutely. So now let's chat about your EP before. So I would love for you to share the overall inspiration for the project, and then if you can give a track by track and share the inspiration for each song.
Okay. Well, I got it right here. I would say that, I put out a project in like 2019, 2020. Was um I'm a mom now. And so that chapter, that transition of like we had a full-on pandemic. I had a really difficult, pregnancy and delivery, and becoming a mom is really hard. It's definitely like I'm a different person than I was 4 years ago, and I also lost a parent during that time. So it was a really difficult season of life for me, and it forced me to grow and adjust to the new norm. And there's a lot of that in here. And I think life is like really beautiful, and it's really hard, and it's every like that if you think of that as a spectrum, it's like there's so many different nuances that make life, beautiful and complicated and messy and wonderful and rewarding and all of those things. And so, I have a song on here um called Enough to Try, that is just I wrote this with another co-writer and friend, and also the producer on the album. His name's Derek Garton. It's Man, you ever had one of those fights that's like kind of puts you and your partner in a at a fork in the road and going, which way are we going to choose? But we got to choose the same road together, and that's kind of tough. I've got a song on here that I wrote a long time ago called Before. It's the title track on the album, and it was just a story about young, naive, and fearless love. So that one's definitely like more of a country song because it's a story, right? I've got a song on here called Bright Eyes that I wrote for my son. I've got a song on here called Wanted. That's gosh, I wrote this with another friend and collaborator, Steve Seskin, and I think we were just having a sad day, and the ins and outs and nuances of relationships. And then the last song on here is called Loving You Is Killing Me, and that's breaking up and getting over somebody is really it can be really hard to do depending on the kind of relationship that it was. And so we spoke to that a little bit. And that's my project.
Wow, it's so vulnerable. I can definitely tell. Thank you so much for opening up about
Thank
all of the
you.
little pieces. And I think that each song captures a different piece of your life, and that's very evident. And I think this is an amazing representation of what we were talking about earlier about talking about personal experiences and being honest because this is extremely honest. So, congratulations on
Thank
this project.
you.
You're welcome. What was your favorite, or what is one of your favorite memories from either writing the songs or recording in the studio?
Derek and I wrote that song. It's called Enough to Try. Um, when we wrote that, that was actually our first time collaborating on a song together. And it was just really fun and really hard to come up with something that day, and we just started playing and, "I put the coffee on," and we needed a really good opening line, and, he was talking about coffee, and I'm not a coffee drinker, but he is, and so we knew when we were gonna sit down and write, it was like, "Okay, well, I'll put the coffee on," and I said, "That's a great opening line," and it sort of fell out of us after that, and that I would say was one of the highlights of this project was getting to work with Derek in a co-writer capacity because 'cause we'd worked together in a producer, artist capacity before, but that was our first song that we wrote together, and we've written more since, and he's just a great friend and collaborator.
That's fabulous, and it's the best feeling when you're stuck and then you, like, have a line or something that opens the floodgates and then the whole song
Yeah,
comes out.
it just fell out of us too, and then we got to do a video for it and everything, so I'm just really proud to be his friend.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what do you hope listeners take away from the EP when they listen to it?
The best I can hope for is that there's something in what I share that you relate to. I genuinely like people, I like conversation, and I like life, even in its hardest and darkest lessons. So if I can tell a story that makes you feel a little bit more seen, then I think that I've done a really good job as a storyteller.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, congratulations again on this project.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you. It's so
welcome.
nice chatting with you. You're so easy to
Yeah.
talk
Oh,
to. So
thank
thank
you.
you.
Absolutely. Just to wrap up, what advice do you have to any songwriters who are listening?
Well, first of all, don't take advice from me because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm making it up along the way. Um, but I would say the process that I sort of consider now is identify the story that I want to tell and then figure out how to tell it. And I think I used to maybe sort of not think of those two things as separate. And that's been a really helpful series for me, a sequence, if you will. So I would recommend if you get stuck, identify first the story that you want to tell and then figure out how you want to tell it. Is this going to be a piano song? Is this going to be a guitar song? Does this feel upbeat? Does it feel slow? Does it feel sort of mid-tempo, Is this gonna make people cry? Is it gonna make people dance? Is it gonna make people laugh? And and then you've backed yourself into a really healthy set of limitations, and you're off to the races there.
Awesome. So much inspiration from you. Thank you so much for joining me on this show. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Have a
Yeah.
wonderful rest of your day, and
Yeah.
I hope we get to chat again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. But before we go, I would love for you to share where everybody can connect with you online and listen to your music.
Oh, please find me online. I'd love to hear from you. Again, like I said, I love talking to people. So my website is miragoto.com. That's miragoto.com. I'm on the socials and I'm on the YouTubes and all the things. So yeah, please don't be shy. Reach out. I'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for joining me, listeners. I hope you enjoyed this chat with Mira. And of course, until next time,
Stay
stay
right
right
on
on
track.
track.